Welcome back to the Drop Bass Not Bombs podcast. My name is Amy Farina, aka MC Unicorn, and I'm here today with the Corporate Raver. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for coming on. It's so cool to chat with you, even though we're in totally different time zones.
I know.
Other side of the world. I love it. So I want to start first. Can you let everybody know a little bit more about who you are, where you're from, and what it is exactly that you do?
Yeah. So my name's Alyssa. I'm 36. I live in LA. By day, I'm a director of customer success at a tech company. And by night, I like to go to concerts and EDM events and document it all online on various channels and social media. And yeah, so I kind of just balance my life between the two, in the shortest way possible.
That's amazing. And one of the main reasons why I had you on is I do something very similar. I also live kind of a double life. I also have a very normal job. I'm a consultant. But yeah, by night, I am a raver. I'm MC Unicorn. I do all my music things. And yeah, it's really interesting and funny. And it's really cool. I'm 32, so around the same age as you.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to meet other people who are doing what we're doing because it's kind of rare. It's few and far between.
Yeah. I've found that it's more and more common as I've started like putting myself out there like that, which we can get into more later. But I feel like the more I've talked about it, other people have kind of like come out of the woodworks and be like, oh my God, me too. It's so cool. And it's kind of funny because they don't like put themselves out there like that. So it's been cool meeting people in that realm.
That's amazing. Coming out of the shadows, like, oh yeah, I do that too.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Awesome. So what came first for you, your corporate job or your love for raving? What's your earliest electronic music memory? How did you get into this scene? How did you get into this crazy life?
Yeah. I think it kind of started before even electronic music. I was just a big music concert fan. Even just going back to, I remember when I was 10 years old, getting my first CD player and my first Backstreet Boys CD. It was just game over from there. And I just became so musically obsessed with going to concerts and going to shows. And so I wasn't always just into EDM, especially when I was 10 years old. Way back then, it wasn't as mainstream as it is now. So I definitely started off a more like pop rock type of music, and I was going to tons and tons of shows. Like my record was 82 in 1 year.
Oh
I
my
was just
God.
a ton of it was just I was like, I found my happy place. This is my favorite thing. And then fast forward to 2012, a friend of mine invited me to Coachella for the first time, which at the time, like that was totally my niche of music. It was just like hippie alt rock, and you get a wide variety. And I remember kind of looking at the lineup for the first time and trying to listen to a bunch of people that I hadn't heard of before. And that's kind of where I started dipping my toe into EDM. And I'm like, I don't think I've heard this before. This is so cool. And I remember it specifically being Nero, Promises, where
Aw.
I was just like, I feel like my brain chemistry was just altered after hearing that. And I remember spending so much time at the Sahara tent at Coachella, which if you know Coachella, that's like the EDM tent.
Mhm.
And it just kind of took off from there, that I was like, this is my favorite thing. This is so much fun. And it just kind of fireballed from there. But also in parallel with all of that, I was very much invested in my career and doing that by day. And it kind of parallel pathed. So like love for music in general just came first. And then once I started going to Coachella and kind of experiencing EDM for the first time, those definitely kind of parallel path themselves.
That's really cool. So I'm curious about Nero. Was it a live set when they had instruments or was it a DJ set? Because I'm wondering if that's kind of the crossover, if you were interested more in live music and rock, if that's what drew you in, or if it was just Promises is just such a banger track.
Yeah, I would be lying if I said I remembered which one it was.
It was a long time ago. I don't know
I
why.
don't
It's so long
remember,
ago.
but yeah, even just listening to it in the
Okay.
car too, just on our way there, I just remember I was like, I have to go see this. And then just staying at the Sahara tent and seeing a bunch of them. So I remember seeing Nero. I don't remember if it was a live set or not, but it was definitely a very different genre than I had previously been listening to. So that was really cool. It definitely opened the doors for me.
Nice. Nero's amazing. Crush on You is always my favorite, and Promise It. Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
That music video is crazy too. Like I still watch it sometimes, go back and watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so classic. Yeah, I have a little different story as you. I grew up listening to electronic music because I was a big video game player. I was really big into Dance
Okay.
Dance Revolution. So I was
Yes.
like a DDR girl, and I was like
Uh-huh.
listening to I grew up in the New York area, and I
Okay.
was listening to a lot of like Eurodance and electronic music and stuff like that. And then raving happened first, and then later I was like, I need to get a job, like a corporate job too,
Yeah.
and I was in college, and there's more to that story, of course. But yeah, for me, I think it was definitely the electronic music came first. So
Yes.
slightly
Yeah.
different, but so looking at from Coachella, how did you start, filming what you do at events? Like, how did you decide I'm gonna share all this on the internet? Because I think that's a big thing to do.
Yeah, I've kind of been doing a version of what I'm doing now since then, since 2012 or even a little bit earlier. I used to have a blog that I called the Fan Files, where I did concert reviews. So it wasn't specific to EDM, but it was my friends and family were like, you go to a lot of shows. Like, I don't know what, but you should do something with that. You need to channel that somewhere. And so I started doing concert reviews and doing kind of like tips and tricks on things to know about the venues, how to meet the artists. I used to be really good at that back in the day, of like knowing where to wait outside and getting
The
pictures
left
of
was it the
people.
left door or
Yeah, exactly. I was like, if you wait till this time, the door is around this corner, do with that information what you will. But but yeah, so I started doing that. I also bought a Nikon, and I started getting into photography and doing concert photography, and that was super fun. I also, back in the digital camera days where you'd bring your point and shoot in addition to your phone because your phone could not take quality video to save its life. I had started a YouTube channel mostly at the time just for myself to save things because I
Oh,
didn't
that's
have
cool.
storage space. And then it just kind of, I got like 20,000 followers from people just wanting to watch the concert videos that I was recording because I was very meticulous about filming the entire song back when people had the attention span to watch an entire song.
Yeah.
But I would film the entire song. And of tons of at all the events that I would go to. So I just had this massive library of concert footage that I put up there. So I did that for a while. And then as social media platforms started to evolve and change, I kind of naturally got onto Instagram and TikTok, which only for me, in the corporate raver sense, was about 2 years ago now, which is crazy to think because I feel like I just started this, but it's been about 2 years now. And I had originally started to try and get back into it because at the time when I started this, work was just at an all-time high stress-wise. And I just wanted some type of goofy, fun, creative outlet that I didn't really have to think about and just to have fun with and get my mind out of work mode at the end of the day. That was one reason. And then the other reason was I actually didn't have any friends in the EDM community. I had been going to events for, at that point, like 8, 9 years, and I was going to everything by myself. I didn't really know anyone in the community, so I kind of thought, okay, maybe I can just have some fun with this and maybe meet some people along the way. And I feel like I've accomplished both of those, which has been really cool. So yeah, I've just kind of been playing with it in that regard of just keeping it as a way of me de-stressing and just continuing to make friends in the community.
That's an amazing journey. It's amazing from the beginning because for me, when I was in college, when I got into raving, going out to actual shows, it was 2009. And I remember I had my Walmart digital camera and we
Yeah.
would put all those pictures on Facebook. Like my roommates would always be like the next, because I'm an early riser or I just don't sleep. So I'd be like up late, like putting all the pictures. And it was like from
Yeah.
Cosmic Gate. And it was like Amy uploaded 283 pictures on Facebook. Like, oh no. And now it's like you go out and you might have 3 good pictures that you put on
Yeah.
Instagram, not 283 with
Yes.
your digital
Yes.
camera. So
Those
it's
days where you just upload hundreds of photos to Facebook,
all
and
of
that
them.
was totally normal. You wouldn't edit anything either. It would just be like dump, upload, and it was just there.
I would find it funny to put ones that were like really bad. And like I recently went back through and deleted some of them, but I mean, it was many years ago, but it's just like they were horrible because none of
You're
them
a
were
filter.
edited. And we were also really into those crest whitening strips at the time in college. So it was like a really dark, like seedy club. And then you just see our really white
Glowing.
teeth. Yeah, like glowing
Yeah.
faces and smoky eyeshadow, like running down our face, like not wearing shoes. And yeah, it was just,
Yep.
it was a vibe. It was a time. And
Different time.
do you ever miss those days, like the early days when it wasn't so edited and templates and things like that?
I sometimes I do. Yeah. I when I'm really bored, sometimes I'll scroll back to have a personal Instagram that from, I don't know, 2011, maybe when I started it. And if I'll just scroll back and it's just the type of things that I used to post are just, or the quality of things I guess I used to post were just so different. But yeah, you just didn't really have to put any thought into it, which yeah, you kind of miss. Like now I feel like I stress over everything that I post and I have to think about it because who is there someone I'm gonna upset by this? Is there someone that shouldn't see that? Like there's so many different things that go through your head now when you post things. So I do miss not having to think about it. But times change.
It's wild how Instagram and social media has transformed as a way to like share your life and just share photos to becoming kind of a business tool or kind of like strategic. For me, I've kept the same Instagram account. I've just changed the name. I'm pretty sure mine in college was some weird princess something or other.
Oh yeah,
And
I had BSB and Aaron's Angel. It was like my old screen name. Backstreet Boys and Carter.
yeah, I think mine was something like that, something strange. And then I changed it to Amy the Core because I listen to a lot of hard dance and hardcore, and then now it's MC Unicorn. But looking back as well, like I can see everything because it's still on my page, and it's a lot of like lattes and margaritas and like just blurry pictures, like my stuff on a bus. And I'm like, why did I post that? Like, what is
Yeah,
this
and
picture?
just the craziest heavy filters that you just thought made it so aesthetic and cool. And I'm like, I can barely see what you're trying to show me because they're so thick.
It's
But
wild. I wonder sometimes like how we got here and what the future is going to look like. If this is where we are now and it's 2023, what's it going to be? What's it going to be like in 10 years?
I know there's always that joke of Instagram versus reality. I feel like it's more true now than ever, but that's what I've relied really heavily or pushed myself really heavily into Instagram stories because I feel like it's harder to fake that. It feels more real and in the moment and authentic. And rather than just judging someone based off of one static post that they do and they have thought a long time about and edited over and over again. And yeah, so I like the Instagram stories. That's my favorite platform or mode of communicating with people or putting content or stuff out there. So
Yeah, I
but
feel like we get to really know you in your stories. So, looking at your stories, like we get to see you, on your work trips. You travel a lot for work. So we got to see you in London. We get to see you like, really be the corporate raver, this juxtaposition between your I don't know you personally, but what seems to be a very demanding, high powered corporate job. And then your really fun rave life. So that's really cool. I also like Instagram stories. And funny enough, I was talking to a friend today and he was laughing at me because in all my stories of me at festivals, I do like an intro. And I always am like, it's day 2 and we're tired. It's like we're day 2. It's like so now he told me he's like you're probably gonna watch when I say that, but I did it for Ultra. I did it for Tomorrowland. It's like good morning guys. Like we're here at the festival. I'm here with I list whoever I'm
yeah.
working with, and I'm like we're tired. It's like well you're always tired. Or like my back hurts.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I always have to when I'm with someone doing the stories, because one thing you'll notice too when I'm doing the stories, I feel like I do stories a lot more when I'm alone, but when I'm with people, I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel like a little weird or awkward when I'm, like you said, like talking to the camera and narrating what I'm doing. But if it's my friends, I'll be like, just ignore what I'm about to say, like before I start filming, because they'll think that I'm talking to them, and then it's
Oh no.
yeah. And but yeah, so my friends that go to events and stuff with me, they know, so they don't have to think about it. But when I was on a work trip a few weeks ago and I went to a show, I was with a coworker. I turned to her and I told her, I was like, just so you know, I film everything. Like,
Please don't do anything inappropriate behind me or to the left and right of me.
I just want to tell you now, I film a lot. I will film myself. You will see me talking to my phone. And she was totally fine with it. She's like, do you? I don't care. But I did have to give her this disclaimer. I was like, because she doesn't know about the Corporate Raver or any of those channels. So I was like, just so you know, this is something I do. She's like, totally fine. I don't care. But yeah, I had to like give that disclaimer. Someone who didn't
That's
know.
hilarious. Everybody I bring with me and all my friends know that I do this. And sometimes they give me shit about it because they always make fun of like, hey, because I always say, hey guys, like, hey guys. And I have a nasally like New York voice, like, hey guys, like they make fun of me. Or like, I'm tired. Or like, we know you're tired. But yeah, I can't imagine being with someone who didn't know. Yeah, I guess I'd have to warn them too. Like, just so you know, I'm going to be talking directly into the camera for 3 minutes about everything that's going on around us. So just
yeah. Exactly.
Be advised. That's so funny. So speaking about other people, the rave scene doesn't always have the best reputation. And I think this is where the problem lies is when you're talking to people outside of the rave scene, a lot of people stigmatize it as being a scene where it's about doing naughty things, all sorts of naughty things. And of course that happens. And I've addressed that on my podcast in various ways as well. A lot of ravers are seen as being irresponsible or in a negative light. Have you experienced any pushback from people when you tell them you go to raves? Did your coworker have fun I'm curious what show you took them to as well, if you could.
Well, that one specifically was the Jonas Brothers. So
oh, it's not rave. Okay. It's a concert.
Yeah. Not as much of a stereotype around that other than just being a child. But at work, I have experienced some of it, especially from leadership, which can be really, really frustrating. But as a whole, I feel like it doesn't happen as often as people might think. And I think that's because the way that I approach it is it's only weird if you make it weird. And for that reason, I am actually very open about all the events and stuff that I go to. And so if someone asks me what I'm doing this weekend, I'll say, oh, I'm going to a festival. They'll say, what kind of festival? And I tell them it's an EDM festival, or I give whatever details about the event that I'm going to. 9 times out of 10, it's EDM. And I think you could answer that question one of two ways. You're like, I'm going to an EDM event, like, being secret and taboo about it, or you can own it and you can just say, yeah, I'm going to an EDM festival. And if you don't show any emotion on your face that I think this is weird, or please don't tell anyone, or, be awkward about it, I feel like that alone takes a lot of the stigma away from it, because if you don't think it's weird, they shouldn't think it's weird. And if you like, the more you normalize that, the more you talk about it, you're like, oh, that's actually that, it kind of takes some of that away. And then another thing I do too, when I talk about it, is I feel like it also comes across very clearly that this is something I just genuinely love to do, and it makes me happy, and I just enjoy doing it. So why would you criticize me for that? So I own it very, very heavily that I go to all of these events. I manage a team of 11 people. And so even junior people under me, you might think like, oh, it's weird that your boss is telling you that you're going to an EDM event. Like, I don't care. You can have a personality outside of work as long as you get your shit done and you're professional during work hours when you need to be. Do whatever you want outside of work. So I've tried to set that expectation with my team and who I manage and who I interact with. And that's kind of what I do to try to destigmatize it a little bit. But it still kind of trickles in every now and then where someone will make a snarky comment, be like, oh, are you, doing whatever? And I'm like, no, actually I don't. And I haven't in many, many years. And I just genuinely love doing it. And I'm sober most of the time. And they're like, they don't know what to say.
Or they're like, how could you be sober and listen to that music? I get that a lot, especially because I'm into the harder style. You're into bass music, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So very similar to hard dance, it's a hard style where people are like, how do you live? Like it can be a bit jarring for people, I suppose,
Yeah. But again, like sometimes you have to reinforce it over and over again. It's not going to happen just on the first try with the first interaction with someone. But I've definitely noticed that shift in some of my coworkers, that they just now think like, oh, that's what she does. It's not weird. That's her favorite thing. And it's okay. And yeah, not to say that would work in every industry or type of, vertical that people might work in, but yeah, it's worked for me in my career to just own it. Just don't make it weird.
Yeah, it's like any other hobby. I feel as though if someone told you they had season tickets to, you're on the West Coast, right? The Padres, like, oh, I have
Yeah.
season tickets to the
Yeah.
Padres. You wouldn't be like,
Yeah.
oh, are you drinking a lot of beer at the baseball game? Like,
Yeah.
no, maybe, but who cares? Like, it's none of your business.
Yeah.
It's a hobby, or you
Yeah.
enjoy going to see the Jonas Brothers, or Britney Spears or whoever. I don't see it as any different, and it's unfortunate that it gets a bad stigma. I used to hide it as well. I went to law school in Washington D.C., and early on, I would always put, like, when I was trying to get into making content or writing articles, I would always put my name as Amy Melissa. That's my first and middle name, not my first, middle, and last name, to try to hide it. I would
Yeah.
also just tell people I was going camping, like in my internships, like, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, I'm going camping, because I did bring a tent to the festival. Like, it's not a lie. Like, wow, you
Yeah.
go camping a lot. Like, yeah, I just love the outdoors.
Yeah.
I'm a big outdoors girl, and like, I'm really not. It's like
Yeah.
just going to festivals. It all changed for me in 2017 here in the Netherlands when I registered Drop Bass Not Bombs at the Chamber of Commerce. And obviously I've all my personal information now. When you register a company, all your
Yeah.
personal information is out there. And from that moment on, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to hide this anymore. I now have my name as, Amy Melissa Farina, or Amy Farina. Everybody knows it's me. Everybody knows I'm MC Unicorn, Drop Bass Not Bombs. I'm doing all these things. And I think I've heard you speak on podcasts before that sometimes it's difficult with some of what we put out because of outfits that we wear, or the nature
Yeah.
of the music. Some of the music too, like, especially again with bass music and hard dance, it's not for the faint of heart. This is like a lot of
Yeah.
head banging, thrashing, aggressive, can be dark lyrics. And then obviously some of the outfits are not workplace appropriate. So
Totally. Yeah. So I do put a lot out there, and while I do own it with my coworkers of the types of events I go to, the one area where I am a little bit more private is I don't go tell them about the Corporate Raver. I don't go, so just add me on social. I don't necessarily want them to see me in those outfits or anything. I still, before I post something, I always kind of think, okay, what if a coworker saw this? Could I defend this? So I definitely filter things based off of that, just in case. I don't think anything I put out there is that egregious or crazy. I don't do any crazy thirst traps. I'm not going out there and doing anything too nuts, or portraying myself, I think, in a negative way. So I do always try to think about what I put out on social from that lens of, and coworkers have found it. I have had someone on our senior leadership team text me, and because there was a video I did that went viral, and they go, "Is this you?" And I'm like, I remember just my heart sinking and feel like, I was like, this is it. They're going to tell me to stop, and this is awful. And what do I do? How do I respond? And I just kind of kept the mentality of just own it. Don't hide it. Like, this is just something fun. And they loved it. They're like, that's so cool. And that was the end of it. And they didn't care. So, but yeah, I still kind of filter everything before I post something based on that lens. Because there is still a level of respectability I like to put out there too. And then also, another thing I do to kind of protect myself just from a privacy standpoint. Again, I feel like I'm a pretty open book on social, but there are certain things I will keep private. Like, you'll never hear me say the name of the company that I work for, because I am client facing. There's weird people on the internet. I don't know what they would do with that information. I don't put my last name out there. I rarely even say my first name. Not that I like keep that secret, but people will just, and if they see me in a crowd, they just yell corporate, and I turn around and I answer to that now.
I think I called you Emma so I was on Emma Capotis's podcast, and
Oh
I
yeah.
mentioned you talking about Tomorrowland, because she asked me about the difference, because I'm American living in the Netherlands. She asked me about the differences between the US and the Netherlands, and I think I called you Emma. So I thought your name was Emma. I was like, your friend Emma, the corporate raver. So that your real name stayed with me. We don't even know it. No, just kidding.
I know people when they meet me, they're like, sorry, I don't actually know your real name. It's okay. I don't really put it out there. But yeah, so things like that I will keep private. But I'm a pretty open book otherwise.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess on the other side of it, do you ever have anybody not give you pushback or be surprised in the rave scene when you tell them what you do professionally?
Um, a little bit, but I feel like it's ravers more than anything that know we are real people with real jobs. I feel like it's the people outside of the rave community that tend to be most surprised by it, I guess. I feel like the ones that I do get surprised by are the really young ravers, the newer ravers, that they are surprised, but they also think it's really cool. And they're like, wow, you're like a grown-up professional
Mhm.
still doing this. That's cool. Because a lot of them, have really, entry-level jobs or working in the restaurant, like, different areas. So I think they do think it's cool, but I do think most of that stereotype comes from outside the community rather than in, because I feel like it's people who are in the community will be the first ones to say, like, yeah, how do you think we pay for all of this? We have jobs. We don't just, yeah. So I think the people in the community, I feel like maybe are less surprised by the job aspect of it, but still think it's funny, to an extent.
Yeah, it was shocking for me at the beginning. Like I said, I started raving when I was 18. I was a student in college in Washington, D.C. And yeah, I kind of had that stigma as well. I didn't know what to expect. And raving in DC, I raved with, I can't even say what some people do, like a lot of like government,
Oh,
high
I'm
up
sure.
government
Yeah.
people that we were partying with. My first rave crew team, no sleep, not going to say any names, but some of you people know who you are, and what jobs you have. And also just doctors, teachers, lawyers, nurses, and like, especially I guess what shocked me the most would be like elementary school teachers, like, because I was in
Yeah.
school. So I'm like, you're a teacher. Like that's, you're out here on the dance floor. It's a Thursday night. And I love that. And I think that really changed it for me, that raving is for everybody. Everyone can rave. It's not just a certain type of person. It's not just for young people. And I think we've all seen people on the dance floor that are well older than us. We're in our 30s, but well older than us. And I love to see that. And I see it all the time, especially in the Netherlands. There's a very active older adult scene that goes out to raves. And I love that. I love to see them.
Yes, that's been one of my favorite things about going to anything internationally, is just not feeling like the oldest one there anymore. That's one of the things I loved about Tomorrowland, is just like I felt like there were people there in their 60s just on a date night. Like they were just, it was just a normal Saturday night for them. And I just thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah, in the Netherlands and Belgium, rave culture, electronic music, it's really embedded in the culture. It's really embedded in society. And we really lost it with Corona, but now it's back. And I think it's just something people here grew up with. It's not like a subculture per se, although there are subcultures within the rave scene, definitely. But in
Yeah.
general, I would say like electronic music is so mainstream here. You hear it on the radio, you're in the grocery store and you hear it. It's crazy. The majority of the DJs in the top 100 on DJ Mag are Dutch. The majority of DJs we know and love are Dutch. So it's such a big part of the culture here. So it is really cool to see people who have been listening to it since the 80s and 90s and who are still going out. And I love that. And I hope that for myself as well.
Yeah, and I hope that that becomes something we see in the future too in the US. And again, not to say I'm like the oldest one out there, but I did feel, I have felt like that for I do feel like that sometimes when I go to certain events, that I'm like, I'm a good 10, 12 years older than everyone else in this room right now. But when I started these channels, and it wasn't my intent when I first started this, but when I first mentioned how old I was, that I got so many supportive comments and feedback on that people were DMing me thinking, or lines of, oh my God, like I wanted to go to an event and I didn't feel like that was okay. That's so cool that like you don't see someone your age going out and doing something like this, or at least putting it out on social. Like I think they're like in the back in the, wearing all the black and just kind of like keeping to themselves. They're there. You just don't see it as much publicly. And I remember going to, I think it was Nocturnal last year, and these girls came up to me and they go, we're here because of you. I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, we're in our 30s and we'd always wanted to come to an event for the first time. And we saw you and it seemed like it was an okay thing to do. And you inspired us to do it. And I was like, I almost cried. I was
Aw.
like, that means so much to me. And I didn't know putting myself out there like that would have that kind of effect on people. And I've even had younger people come up to me and say things along the lines of, you give me hope that I don't have to stop doing this anytime soon. And I'm like, that's
Aw.
so, it's just like I tear up every time. It's so cool. that I didn't think that that was a fear people had, but it is. There is a stigma around that.
There
But
definitely is. I was at a festival last weekend here in the Netherlands, and I was just kind of sitting against the fence, taking a little break. I was there for work, and these 18-year-olds were talking to me, and they were like, "Oh, you're 32." They thought I was like 23. I was like, "Thanks for the compliment, but I'm
I
32."
love that when that happens.
Happens to me a lot, but I present young. I'm MC Unicorn, so I'm always wearing like pink and glitter, and I'm my like unicorn backpack. Like
Same.
I present younger, and it's our energies as well.
Yeah.
If they knew me during the week, they'd be like, "You're 85," because I'm like,
Same. Yeah. So when someone says, I've literally had someone ask me to see my ID, and they're like, I don't believe you. And I show, and they're like, so it was like some kid was trying to hit on me, and I was like, I promise you I'm too old for you. And they're like, no, you're not. No, you're not. I was like, I am closer
like,
to
promise.
yeah. And they're like, oh, okay, I believe you now.
That's always a good compliment. And yeah, I get that a lot as well. And yeah, these guys were just like, "Oh, you're 32. Like, when are you? You're almost 40. Like, are you gonna stop?" And like, no, like, why would I stop? I love this. I made a whole life around I made my
Yeah.
whole life around this. Why would I stop? I have no intention of stopping. Maybe there's a time when I'm gonna slow down. Maybe there's a time where I'm gonna do things a little bit differently. I am already, and this kind of segues into my next question is, do you see raving a little bit differently in your 30s? For example, for me, one change has been I don't camp anymore. I usually opt for a hotel, and this is gonna sound old lady, but I do have problems with my hips. I do go to physical therapy, and I have issues with my hips, and
Ah,
it's better for me and also for the work that I do to be well rested, stay in a hotel, and also I turn into like a feral animal at campsites, and that's not good for what I do. I would not be professional. The content wouldn't be good. I would just be,
no.
I go wild. So it's better for me at the end of the night to go to a hotel and take a shower, watch Rick and Morty, go to sleep, and then be refreshed and eat that big buffet breakfast and then go
Uh,
out the door.
the
But
best.
anyway,
Yeah.
I'm curious about your story with this.
Yeah. Same. Again, if you follow me, I'm very vocal about being team hotel and team no
Okay.
camp.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to camped for years at Coachella, so I've had the camping experience many times. But that's one of the biggest things I think changing in my 30s is I have adult money now. I can go to more festivals, I can go to different festivals, and I can be bougie about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna be bougie about it. And I remember going, like when I camped at Coachella, there were 6 of us in a tent, and it gets to be 106 degrees in Coachella Valley at that time. And I remember, but that was the only way I could afford to go, and I made the most of it. I still had the best time, and but now like I can't fathom the idea of doing that. And but I remember at the time, like I'm never going to be those one of those bougie people who have to get all the fancy things. No, I want all of those things now. I have no shame in it. I like, yeah, I don't want to do all the setup. I don't want to do all the breakdown. I want a shower. I remember the first time going to Coachella with a hotel. Mind you, it was like a Motel 6. It was not a nice hotel in the slightest. And my friend and I, who had camped many years before, we felt like queens. We just felt like the fanciest girls in all of Coachella, just because we had a roof over our heads and we had never had that before. And that was game changer. I was like, I'm never going back. Although I camped at Tomorrowland last year, which was out of necessity because I couldn't get any of the other packages. And that was awful, the camping part of
Yeah.
it, but everything else was fine, was great. But the camping, I can't do it ever again. I'm doing Tomorrowland Brazil in a few weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm excited to say we have a hotel, a shuttle to the grounds. So I won't be doing that again.
Nice. I'll be there next year. I think I did Tomorrowland in Belgium next year, but I'm hoping for Tomorrowland Brazil next year. I can't this year.
Nice.
My brother's getting married in October, but yeah, I'm excited about that. And yeah, the last time I camped, I remember specifically was Mysteryland last year, Mysteryland August 2022, and I was like, this is the last time. First of all, I'm not outdoorsy, so I lie. Sorry to all the jobs that I've lied to in the past. Like I can't put up a tent. Actually, I would use like the pop-up tents, so you just
Okay.
open them up. I can't put them back together, especially day 3 at the festival when you have like one brain cell left and you're tired. And I'm just like, help me. And then
Yeah.
I'd recruit people to help you, and everything is dirty. And then if you do want to take a shower here in the Netherlands at festivals, it costs a token. You have to carry all your stuff. And then Mysteryland, I lost my glasses. I ended up getting LASIK after that. It was just, I found the glasses, if anyone was wondering, months later. But, it's just, I just can't do it. And I used to judge people for staying at hotels too. It's funny because I had some friends who stay at hotels, like, why? It's like, why wouldn't you just camp? The party never ends. And then now I'm like, kind of want the party to
I
end so I
want the
can
party to end.
stop
Yeah.
so I can like relax. And then the party is going to start again the next day. And then you have 19 more festivals for the rest of the year. So do you really need to like go until 7 a.m. every night and not sleep or eat or shower? Like, probably not.
Yeah, that's also been one of the biggest changes for me too, is the amount of things I used to be able to do on little to no sleep, just knew no bounds when I was younger. But now I'm like, I need at least 6 hours to like be a good functioning human being. And it's so hard to get that when you're camping because the party never stops. Also, when I was younger, my social battery meter also knew no bounds, but now I have a limit. Like my social battery does get drained, and I do like to go back to a hotel with blackout curtains and just peace and quiet and not speak to a single soul. So a lot of times I do actually go, I prefer to stay in a hotel by myself. And I don't even like EDC. I had several people ask like, hey, you want to stay with us? Can I stay with you? And I was like, politely no. Like
Big no.
especially EDC is such a socially draining event that I like to stay by myself. There's a very select few people that I will go with because I know we can be on the same wavelength, that they also like. I'm going to Tomorrowland, Brazil with my friend Ollie. Her and I are very much exactly the same. We want to come back at the end of the day or at the end of festival. I love you, but I don't want to talk to you. We just want to scroll on our phone, shower, and fall asleep to peace and quiet. And I don't know, that's what I like to do now. That's how I function for 3 whole days or 4 days, depending on how long the festival is. So it matters to find people who can match that energy.
Definitely, because not everybody can. And for me, it depends on the situation. But lately, all the events I'm going to are for work to do event reviews. So I have my tablet with me, and I watch TV, whether it's like Rick and Morty, so it's usually Rick and Morty, Friends, The Office, How I Met Your Mother. I have like a list of shows. So it's like, come back to because it's hard. It's hard for me to wind it down. I'm very high energy. So you're going like, especially the music I listen to. So get back to the room, take a shower, maybe eat something, like relax. And then like I put on my show, and if someone else in the room, put on headphones. If not, because in other countries too, sometimes the TV is not in English, and like, sorry, even though I do understand Dutch, I don't want to watch Dutch TV at like 5 like, or what weird. I was in Germany too somewhere, like, I don't know German, I don't want to watch The Big Bang Theory in German, I want to watch it in English.
Yeah, fair.
Like, so sorry, but just sit with my tablet alone, like put on a stupid show that I've seen 1,000 times and just like relax, fall asleep. And that's important to me. It sounds simple, but that's like an important part of my like routine now, is like having that moment to myself. At the campsite, you do not, because even if there's no one playing music, it's hard to sleep in a tent on an air mattress, like you said, or with multiple people, or just like if it's not noise in the Mysteryland was quite quiet at night. It was really quiet, but in the morning, people are rustling around again. You hear the stages. You like, it's just, it's impossible.
I did my first RV experience earlier this year at Electric Forest, and I would do RV again. RV was doable. And I think the campground we were in, because I don't know if you've been to Forest. It was my first Forest, but they have a bunch of different campground areas. They're all named something different. And the one that I was in this year was called Lucky Lake. And it's literally on a lake. And I don't know if I just got lucky, no pun intended.
Lucky on Lucky Lake.
I didn't mean to say that, but but I felt like everyone around us was actually very respectful. That I stayed with 2 other people in my RV. We're all in our 30s, so no one was like crazy partying or anything like that. You did hear the after party that was happening, which was almost a mile away, but that would be going till like 6:30 in the morning. But if I put my noise canceling headphones in and my eye mask, I could sleep through it and it was fine. But the shower line didn't really get too long. It didn't feel super crowded. So I would do that again. That was decent. Actual tent, pitching the tent, I don't think I could do. But also we had AC. The AC in the RV was so clutch because it was so hot, and I was actually just bundled up in blankets. I love being cold when I sleep. And I remember seeing everyone else's posts who were intense, just sweating and just so hot. And I'm like, I'm cold right now. And I love it.
That's amazing.
So I could do RV. I think I could do RV again.
I've never done RV camping. It's definitely not a thing here in the Netherlands. And I don't think I've ever, yeah, no, I've never done it in the US. But I think the other thing for me, the other main reason why I don't camp is because I'm someone who has a lot of stuff. I'm not a light packer.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about a tent, you're talking about a tent, a tarp, all the supplies for the tent, an air mattress, blankets, sheets, pillow, then all the food, cooler. I'm someone who eats and drinks a lot. I'm a big eater and drinker. So talking about like bottles of wine, 6 packs of beers. And then I
Yeah.
also am a big sparkling water drinker, protein shakes, smoothies, then food, and then especially with the work that I do, all the outfits, hair, like hair extensions, makeup, glitter, like talking about nine. I remember DEF CON 2018. I had 9 bags. I remember putting them on security and I was like, they're like, just go. Cause like, you have so many
I
bags.
know.
It's just like, please, like, we're not going to, I'm like, you have to bring a cart. Like people here in the Netherlands, we
Yeah.
have like these carts or like to pull all this stuff. And it's just a ridiculous amount of stuff. And especially if you don't have a car, yeah, Mysteryland, another example. I took the train was down, took 3 buses to get to Amsterdam, carrying all that stuff. It was just, and my friend and I wanted to have 2 tents, one tent to get ready in and one tent to sleep, which is so extra, but so
Yeah.
carrying all that stuff, it's just,
It's a
yeah, no,
lot.
I'm
Yeah.
done. No more. Sorry, come for me, but no more. I'm not camping ever again.
No, I know. It's stirred up some controversy on social
That's right.
camp.
Let me
I'm
have
not gonna,
it.
yeah, I know I'm not gonna yuck anyone's yum. It's just not for me. I'm glad you found something that works for you. It doesn't
Yeah,
work for me. Good for you. I'm not gonna do it though.
exactly. Same here. That's
Yeah.
too funny. So balancing your full-time job and raving, do you ever feel like you have to choose between these two worlds? Do you ever have to like prioritize things or make tough choices?
Yeah. And I feel like this year that's kind of come to light more so than any. And kind of going back to Forest was, I remember leading up to that, there was so much going on at work at the time that I was so stressed. I was feeling really, really guilty about leaving because it, also with Forest, you're literally in the middle of Forest in Michigan. You're not going to have service. It's not like I can feel like I'm somewhat connected to help if there's a fire or something going on. So that was just, I was getting very panicky about that. And I was started to think, maybe I shouldn't go. I've never had that feeling before of thinking I would need to cancel on a festival because of work. Because usually I work remote. Usually everything's pretty flexible. I plan it ahead of time. Like usually it's fine. But I had done so many things before that too, leading up to it. Like 2 weeks before that, I was in New York for 10 days. And then a week before that, I was at EDC. And it was just kind of a lot all at once. So I kind of started having this immense guilt of, you've done too much. You can't leave work right now. You're going to leave them high and dry. I feel really bad. And started thinking I shouldn't go. I ended up going. Everything ended up being fine at work. But yeah, I don't want to feel like that again. So I've definitely kind of started to think about how I schedule things out and not do as much back to back to back to back to back like I was doing. Because it also helped, it is also kind of ruined my experience for Forest because I was so stressed thinking about work the whole time that I felt like when I came back from Forest, I thought I didn't experience that like I should have. And everyone talks about this magic of Forest and that's their favorite place and all of this. And I didn't feel that while I was there because I could not stop thinking about work and it felt really bad. So yeah, it's definitely kind of played a factor into me pulling back on stuff this year. Because last year too, I started feeling that a little bit last year too. I did 13 festivals last year and I think I was still just in post-COVID, say yes to everything mode
Mm-hmm.
and just do everything because this could be stripped away from you again at any time and you don't know. This year I'm probably doing half of that. So it feels a lot better, I think, mentally. But the time around Forest was a tough mental juggle for me.
Yeah, I find it hard sometimes too going to events to turn everything off. And raves are supposed to be, your happy place and your safe
Yeah.
space and a time to escape. But when you do have so much going on in your normal life, it's sometimes hard to turn all that off and enjoy it. And you're like, everybody else is enjoying it. And then for me, like I'm always working at events too. So it's different than my full-time job. And
Yeah.
it can sometimes be overwhelming for sure. So how with so many events, especially because you're out on the West Coast, there's a lot kind of like here in the Netherlands. How do you prioritize which to go to? Because I have a problem too. I don't know how many I've been to this year, but like I also have a problem saying no. And I am saying no to some.
Yeah.
So it's just like impossible. And also trying to schedule that like I'm going to the US in October. So I need to plan stuff there. And I need to give myself a little buffer time too. I made the mistake in June of like booking two back-to-back festivals where I do weekenders back-to-back often, but one where like I came back on Monday night and it was in the Netherlands, and then Thursday morning I left for Frankfurt, and like I have a normal job too, so like trying to do my work on the train,
Yeah.
and like the train, like I didn't book a seat on the train because I just didn't. I just didn't overlook that. So I kept having to move seats with the laptop and all the stuff. Is like, oh my God, what am I
Yeah.
doing? So how do you pick and choose what to go to with so many events,
Yeah, definitely being in Southern California, it's hard because
Mhm.
we're spoiled out here.
Yeah.
There's
Here
just
too.
always something to go to. Yeah, I'm sure there too. But I feel like I have really worked on my FOMO or to say, okay, you've seen this artist how many times? You don't need to go. They're
Yeah.
gonna play again. Unless it's some like crazy one-off special show that you feel like you're not gonna get anywhere else. Like I always kind of try to walk myself through that mentally. Like, okay, Tiesto's playing in LA. How many effing times have you seen Tiesto? Chill.
A
You
lot.
don't.
Me a lot.
Yeah. So he's amazing. We love Tiesto.
Classic.
You have something the weekend before and the weekend after that you really want to go to. Skip that. So I kind of try to plan it out that way. Like when I'm going to Tomorrowland in a few weeks, I made a very big effort to not do anything this month in September because I do not want to go into something like Brazil, like I did with Forest, and just burnt out and tired and not enjoy it the way that I should have. And which I'm part of me is bummed that like the older I get that I do have to pay more attention to that. I used to be able to do everything back to back to back and be fine mentally, physically at work, but that's not the reality for me anymore. So burnout is a very real thing. So this month in September, doing 0 festivals. I'm going to one show before, and it's just a local show, a one-off show, not a festival. So I really wanted to be in good mental, physical spirits before going to Brazil and traveling that and being able to experience that to the fullest. So yeah, it's definitely I have to talk myself through it sometimes because even this weekend I'm like, I have nothing to do. There's so much I could just go. I could just go to Nocturnal for a day. What's a day? And I'm like, no, it's like devil and angel kind of thing. Like, no, you said you stay home, stay home. So it's a ping pong for sure.
Yeah, I have that too. I have like pre FOMO. Like, if I don't go, will I miss out on something? Like, not even during it. It's like before, like, I should go
Yeah.
because I feel like I'm going to miss out. And last weekend, I was at Dream Village and I was just in Croatia too. Like, everyone's like, didn't you just come back from Croatia? I was like, I did. I'm like, they're like, are you getting better with planning? I'm like, I'm trying, but here I am again. So this weekend, I'm not doing anything. I'm just doing this. I've
Yeah.
just been doing non rave things this weekend. For a little while as well. But yeah, it's super hard. On top of prioritizing events, what else do you do to stay on top of your mental health and balance, your demanding job and your love for raving?
Yeah. I and sometimes this gets hard, but I'm someone who really craves routine, but also there's this part of me that loves spontaneity and just doing something crazy and random and doing something all the time. But I do love my routine. Like during the week, I work out in the morning, I get to the gym at 5:45, 6 a.m. I do my weightlifting, I eat a healthy breakfast, I do macro counting, I like keep all of that very buttoned up and healthy. So just kind of taking care of myself physically. And I started going to therapy again. After Forest, I just like mentally needed something. So I think that's been good, just kind of learning like breathing techniques, and if you start to feel anxious and certain things that can kind of help take care of that. But I think the biggest thing, like I said, is just not overstretching myself, and just knowing, being honest to yourself, and knowing when you're scheduling things out through the year, through the month, telling yourself, that's a little much, isn't it, Alyssa? You should dial it back a little bit. I know you want to go to all of it, but you know how you're going to feel after. So I think I'm starting to pay more attention to when I do those things to myself and how I feel after. And then it kind of sets a precedent for myself of what I do in the future too. So kind of trying to listen to my body more before I schedule that stuff.
Yeah, I do the same preemptively. And then I try also to like, it is a little hard for me with writing event reviews. I need to turn them around pretty fast, but I try to
Yeah.
like not schedule too much, with the exception of what I told you with Croatia and Frankfurt, but I try to not schedule anything like immediately after. So I try to make sure the Monday after a festival, I don't have too much with my normal job, or I take off from my normal job so I can just work on the article, get back on track. Cause yeah, like you,
Yeah.
my routine's important to me too. And I try to like ease back into the gym and eating healthy. And these weekend events really mess up your routine. Yeah, even if you do get decent sleep at the hotel, like you're still not 100%. Or especially with the nighttime festivals, the overnight festivals, like EDC Vegas, or here we have
Yeah.
Ground Zero. Yeah, Forbidden Island I went to is also at night it's actually all day and all night, but it's like even worse. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like if you're getting home at 6 in the morning, I mean, that's not your usual schedule. So, and if you're in another country too, you might not be eating what usually, you might not be able to keep to your schedule and your routine. So that makes it challenging as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The food and the diet for me personally has always been a really big thing, that if I know that there's certain foods or certain ways to eat that just make me feel awful. As great as they taste and as much as I love eating them, I know that they'll have other impacts on my physical health and my mental health. So I try to pay attention to that. So like if I'm going to a festival too, I try to pack really healthy snacks, so I can have those at my disposal too, and not have to just immediately go to McDonald's or go to, fast food or something where I know I'll just feel awful after. Awful in the States. McDonald's overseas, I feel like, and we can go on a whole tangent about that.
Yeah.
Quality of food in Europe is so much better than here. But so the decisions made in other countries are maybe different. But yeah, so just taking care of yourself physically. I also drink a lot less than I used to at events. Earlier this year, I took 4 months off of drinking, just no drinking. I usually always just do a dry January like everyone does. And then again, just listening to my body, I was like, I don't really miss it yet. I'm just going to kind of keep going. And it ended up being 4 months. And I didn't set out for it to be 4 months or end up trying to like quit drinking altogether. But that break felt really, really nice. So at events, especially long festivals, I have like 2 beat boxes max if I drink. But yeah, I try to watch that too.
Yeah, and that's hard, definitely. I usually do dry February because January is my birthday month, so I usually end
Oh
up having a drink
yeah.
on my birthday. But yeah,
Fair.
I like to do that as well. Take breaks when I can, and then also try to take breaks from raving when I can. I'm already foreseeing that maybe like January. I think February I'm going to a state of trance here in the Netherlands, but I think like from New Year's until then, I'll try to lay low, try to lay low if I can. But it's hard. You got to schedule these things out months in advance. Otherwise, it's like, well, I'm already booked up.
Yeah, like you said, doing non-raving things, which I know to someone not in the community or is like deeply rooted as we are, sounds so stupid, but like that's your entire personality, which it kind of is. But I like after Forest, I was like, I just need to disconnect from this for a minute. And I remember just going to the movies or reaching out to like my non-raving friends and just saying, do you want to go do something? And we went to the batting cages and just
Oh, cool.
doing little things like that. I was like, this is so refreshing and nice. Or just going to get lunch with someone that you haven't seen in a while, or which sound like such basic things, but I'm always on this go, go, go schedule, and everything revolves around an event or an EDM event that I tend to forget to take a step back and do other things, which novel idea, but that was very therapeutic in a way to just not do all of that stuff for a minute. So that was nice.
Yeah, people are always shocked when I have other hobbies. I'm like, yeah, I like movies. I like going to today I went to a park. I like,
Yeah.
I'm hanging out. Like I like, watching Netflix. I have a Nintendo Switch. Like I like Pokemon, as you see my background. Like I have other things that I like unicorns. I have other things
Yeah.
other than
Yeah.
raving and working that I like too. But
Yeah. Yeah,
that's so
exactly.
funny. So we're coming towards the end now, but the time flew. This went by really fast. So I just have two more questions for you. This is the question that I ask all of my guests. How do you rave for a cause or party for a purpose in your life?
Um, I oh, there's so many ways that you could answer that.
Yep.
At the highest level, I rave because it makes me happy. It is my happy place. I have yet to find something that replicates that type of energy and level of happiness that I reach when I'm at an event like that. It's just unmatched, in my opinion. If you look at it in a more granular area, or reason, another thing that kind of pushes me forward to keep posting like I'm posting and putting myself out there is for those people who had come up to me at events saying, I didn't think this was okay because I thought I was too old, or I have a corporate job. I didn't think this was okay for me to also be doing. So I'd like to put myself out there too and remind people you can have personalities outside of work and still be an awesome professional and kick ass in your career, and you can do both. And you're not too old. That's so silly. So yeah, it makes me happy. And if I can encourage anyone else to go out and do the same thing, that means a lot to me.
Amazing. I agree 100%. I hope what I'm doing and what we're doing inspires everybody. And thank you so much for today. I really appreciate this conversation. Was
Yeah,
really
thanks for
fun.
having me.
I feel like we have a lot in common. So, lastly, where can people connect with you online?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok and Instagram at the Corporate Raver.
Awesome. Go and check out her videos. They're really funny. I love them. I can relate to them. And thank you again so much for today. And I hope to meet you in person someday.
Yes,
Definitely.
one day. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye
Bye.
bye. So that was my episode with the Corporate Raver. It was so much fun having her on the podcast, as I've been following her for quite some time now. And I can really relate to her as someone who has a demanding, quote unquote, normal job while also being a raver. And for me, I really do feel like at times I live a double life, balancing a career in consulting and a career in the rave scene. So love her content. You guys definitely go and check her out. Her videos are so funny. They're really relatable. Shoot her a message and let her know that you discovered her through the Drop Bass Not Bombs podcast. So you guys probably noticed by my background, I'm not in my office. Surprise. I'm not in my usual spot. I'm actually in New York right now. I'm in the US for my brother's wedding. Just had that. And then I'm headed to EDC Orlando, Eric Prydz, etc., etc. So definitely go and check out my Instagram, MC Unicorn Official, see what I'm up to, where I'm at, because I'll be all over the US this trip. But for now, I am here in the US stateside. And then at the end of next month, I'll be back in the Netherlands and then back here again. So just keep up to date. You can see what I'm doing. You can see who I'm with. Just check out my Instagram. So before we sign off today on the podcast, I just have a few announcements. So first announcement is last month, I was at Amsterdam Dance Event with EDM House Network. You can check out my full review on edmhousenetwork.com. I also did a recap on my Wednesday night lives on Instagram. So I'm just going to walk you guys through a short recap through the highlights of AD. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see some clips here and some photos here. It was really a lot of fun. So my favorite moments from AD 2023, definitely the EDM.com mixer on Wednesday. It was so great to meet the EDM.com team. I met a lot of those guys at Tomorrowland, but it was really great to meet them in Amsterdam and meet more members of their team. We're doing a lot of cool stuff with EDM.com. That was a lot of fun. And then later that night, I got to meet Timmy Trumpet, which was so cool. I'm never going to forget that. We had a private mixer with Timmy Trumpet and then got to see him perform. And of course, Tony Jr. as well, always puts on an amazing show. So Wednesday was definitely a big highlight for me. And then other highlights from the week, I met so many amazing people. I met some of my favorite content creators. I met a lot of industry professionals, a lot of DJs, and to close out everything, Amsterdam Music Festival was definitely one of the best productions I've ever seen at an indoor rave ever. Definitely top 5. If you guys have never been, definitely go and check out Amsterdam Music Festival. That was amazing. Armin van Buuren was great. James Hype, Medusa, Rehab. There was even a surprise set from W&W, so that was really cool. There was fireworks, there was confetti, there was lasers. So yeah, once again, if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see some clips here. Otherwise, definitely go last year. It's actually interesting about Amsterdam Music Festival. They used to do the top 100 DJ awards there. So for years, probably for at least 10 to 15 years, I've been following that and watching them like, oh, I want to go to the ceremony. I would love to go. And unfortunately, they don't do that there anymore. And it took me till 2023 to finally go to AMF, even though I've been to AD so many times. But I made it and it was a blast. And I can't wait until next year. So before we close out the episode, as always, I want to drop some codes for you guys. There's new codes coming. I'm not going to say anything yet, but there are some new codes coming. So just giving you guys all the discounts. So first up is Shroom Beach. You can use my code MCUnicorn20 and shop from amazing psychedelic swimwear and festival outfits. And best of all, a portion of the proceeds from every purchase goes to support psychedelic research. So head on over to shroombeach.com or click the link in the description to learn more. My next announcement, you guys know by now, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, is from Rolita Couture. Rolita Couture is a handmade rave festival fashion brand that's sure to make you feel confident and comfortable at your next event. I'll be wearing some of the outfits to EDC Orlando, so stay tuned. As always, it's not a surprise anymore. The clothes are high quality and functional. Some even have pockets. Of course, if you're a lady, it's hard to find stuff with pockets or the pockets are so small. These are deep pockets, which I really appreciate. Head on over to RolitaCouture.com. Use code MCUnicorn at checkout because sexy has no size. Lastly, please check out my second podcast, Ravers Revelations, with my friend Elena Van Wyk. This is the podcast where we read and react to your festival stories. The podcast is available now on her YouTube channel, which I've linked to in the description. It's also available on Spotify. And if you're looking for bonus content, head on over to patreon.com/RaversRevelations. If you'd like to support me and the podcast, give me a follow on Instagram, MCUnicornOfficial, or follow Drop Bass Not Bombs NL. You can support the Drop Bass Not Bombs podcast for as little as 99 cents a month by clicking the link down in the description below. Podcasting is not cheap, as you guys know, so with your help, we can make the podcast grow, someday expand our team, maybe get a studio, more content. So thank you guys so much. That's all for today. If you like the podcast, please leave us a review, give us 5 stars, or drop a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time, December 15th, for my full review and recap of EDC Orlando. Bye.